This is the Short-Term Management Show. The show that is all about short-term rental property management, hosted by yours truly, Luke Carl. Welcome to the very first episode of the Short-Term Management Show. It is great to be here. I can't believe it took me this long, quite frankly. I've been in radio for many years, cut many a radio show on this very microphone, so not unfamiliar with talking and happy to be here talking about one of my very favorite subjects. And of course, Luke Carl is the name, long-haired Luke, cash flow Carl, if you will. I'm also known as Avery's husband, Avery Carl from the Short-Term Shop, who put it on the map, quite frankly. I mean, the wrote the book on it, Short-Term Rental, Long-Term Wealth. And we love her very much, and we're very proud of her. And so I wanted to basically come and talk to you today about management. How do we do this? How do we facilitate making cash with one of these things? And even a bigger picture is why are we doing this? We're doing it for freedom, I think, right? Our everybody's why is different, and everybody's at a different place in their career, of course. And but I really think that for me, it was about freedom and not having to worry about the man and being told what to do all day. And the only way to do that really is to hold assets that produce rental income, cash flow. And I bought my first house about 11 years ago, bought my first rental property, and it has been a crazy ride since day one. And it's not easy. I think that's the biggest problem with where we are in culture right now is that, at the risk of sounding like an old man, there is so much stuff on the internet and podcasts, et cetera. And God bless Bigger Pockets and the early days, the OG for me. Wouldn't be here without him. Love him to death. But there is so much stuff out there now, and I think it's difficult to figure out who to trust. And analysis paralysis is bigger than it's ever been. But anyway, for me, it's always been about freedom, and you can do that through real estate. And the thing that these podcasts and websites don't tell you is that if you want to quit your job, if you want to do whatever you want to do, buy a motorhome and travel the country, you got to have a lot of cash. Let's do some quick math. If you want to replace a $100,000 day job, you're going to need $1 million in cash at 10% cash on cash return, which these days 10% is kind of hard to find. Now, don't write that down low. Luke said 10% is hard to find. We're not here to talk about numbers right now. But what I am saying is that you're going to need a lot of cash and a lot of leverage and borrowing power to get out of that day job. So be careful with that. And really what we're talking about here, guys, is get rich slow. Real estate is very get rich slow. But that being said, I did it. I came from a very humble upbringing. I love my family, love them to death. But my folks were kicking and screaming for every penny back in the Midwest and where I grew up, and very proud of it. I was under my dad's truck, helping him change the brakes when I was 5 or 6 years old in his truck, because you didn't pay somebody to do that kind of stuff. And I'm sure there's a lot of folks, I'm sure that you listening right now understand that probably was you, and it can be done. I started my real estate career, I had something like $16 to my name. And at a certain point, I looked up, I remember exactly where I was in the bathroom of the house I was living in at the time. And I looked up at that mirror. Actually, it wasn't even a mirror, it was a medicine chest with no mirror. And they said, that's it. I am no longer thinking about money. I'm no longer worrying about it. And I remember it was right about that time that I was listening to, I'm an Audible guy. I was listening to Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, T. Harv Eker. There's your book shout out for today. And that book, many, many, many books have changed my life. But that one, at that point in time, I will never forget what an impact that had on me. And it was incredible. So go read that. That's your book of the podcast today, is T. Harv Eker. T as in Model T, Harv Eker, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. There are several books with the similar title. Make sure you get the T. Harv Eker version, or not version. They're not the same book. They're different books with similar titles. But it's all about freedom. It's about family. And we're all going to have different whys, like I said. So why are we getting into this? What do we want out of this? And I think we want probably similar goals, to be more with our family, more in tune with ourselves and our relationships with the people that we love. I do think that can go the other direction. You could get a little micromanaging, you know, if you're doing this with your, like a husband and wife combo. Lord knows I know everything about that. And sometimes we can find ourselves, you know, maybe the person that got into this, the management side of things, as far as short-term is concerned, they needed this in their life. Maybe they needed this in their life. Maybe it was a house husband or a housewife that wanted to feel like they belonged. And, you know, so the other spouse micromanaging that person, telling them they're doing it wrong, not a good idea. But, you know, we'll get into the depths of that and the psychology of this as we dive deeper. But I also want to mention that I'm going to talk about long-term rentals quite a bit. I really got into short-term kind of on accident. As a matter of fact, we were living in outside of Nashville at the time, and we bought a house in Nashville to rent out. And then next thing you know, we couldn't buy a second house in Nashville to rent out because the prices went through the roof. So what did we do? We branched out. We went to a different location. You know, Brandon Turner always taught, how do you go find something 3 hours from your house. So this is exactly what we did. And we went to the Smokies because you could buy a house and rent it out. And it was a different type of renting it out. You were putting it on Vrbo. And at the time, Airbnb was just becoming a thing. Nobody was really on Airbnb at the time, which, by the way, I'm going to brag a little bit. I do own, still to this day, the longest running Airbnb in the Smoky Mountains, which many people consider to be the biggest short-term rental market in, if not the United States, and maybe in the world. So I'm very proud of that, because nobody was using Airbnb back then. Plenty of people have been on Vrbo much longer. It's been around for almost 30 years. I did not invent this. That's another thing I want to mention here, guys. I did not invent Airbnb. I am not Brian Chesky. I did not invent Vrbo. Don't even want to pretend like I did. I am not looking to be the best at Airbnb. I am just looking to provide a better life for myself and for my kids. This is the vehicle in which I have found that has worked for me. It just kind of, you know, I fell into my lap. Really, I didn't go looking for it. It just kind of happened. But I always wanted those long terms, you know, and I still have way more to this day, way more long terms than I do short terms. But for whatever reason, everybody's super interested in the short terms. They're sexier. You can cost seg them. They actually make a little bit of money. You can cash flow on a short term, generally your first year. That is not probably going to be the case when it comes to long-term rental. They're not sexy. You got to scrape together 50 grand to find a house that's going to make maybe $300 a month. And then when the HVAC dies, you're out 2 years profit, you know, and that's why we say, of course, it's get rich slow, man. You got to replace that HVAC when it breaks. And if you're kicking yourself saying, why did I buy this house with the HVAC that broke? And you're probably never going to make it, quite frankly. And that's why I'm here. I'm here to tell you that I did it. I've done it, and you can do it. It's not that big a deal. That's the secret. That is the secret. There are so many influencers out there in real estate, and that kind of blows my mind a little bit. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm getting a little older. I don't understand the influencer thing. I just don't. And I appreciate it. I mean, just yesterday I was looking to go buy new tires for the Jeep. You know what I mean? So I went on, what did I do? I Googled the best, I think it was wheels, actually, best wheels for a Jeep. And there was a YouTube clip came right up, and it was well produced and it was awesome. And I said, I'm buying my wheels from this guy. You know what I mean? So it works. And the reason is because that guy knew what he was talking about. So, again, not to toot my own horn. I've been doing this a long time. I'm not Grant Cardone. I'm not going to sit here and throw numbers at you. I have more houses, quite frankly, than I care to admit on the internet. But I want to give back, and that's why I'm here today. And I appreciate you for having me, and thanks for listening. And let's have a hell of a year here in 2023. It's great to be with you on the Short Term Management Show.